Welcome to another edition of the How to Grow Your E-commerce Business podcast from vendlab.com. I'm here with Valon from Behamics, and I'm very excited about this particular interview because we're going to talk about everything to do with AI and e-commerce. So, Valon, would you like to start off with introducing yourself and tell us about your background in AI?
Yeah, 100%. Hey, Trevor, thanks for having me. It's very nice actually to be back.
You're the first person I've ever had back. You realize that?
That's good. I'm impressed.
That's an honor.
I feel happy. It's an honor. Yes, 100%. And especially because when we last spoke, that was like before this whole AI hype, this whole boom in AI interest, which happened like last year. And it's very interesting to be back and literally talk about these things and what has happened and where is AI going and what's the future of it, right? So thanks for having me back. It's an honor again to be the first one to be invited twice to your show. So happy to chat more. Regarding a bit about my background, I have a background in computer science, AI. I used to work at Google as an AI engineer. Had a previous startup where I made an exit, and then started Behamics 6 years ago with the purpose of applying AI in e-commerce, right? And by applying AI, tackling different challenges. Because when you actually think sometimes when you think about AI in e-commerce, you usually think about recommendation engines, maybe sometimes sending automated emails, personalized emails, or maybe even providing coupons. So these three different examples are what you could resonate to when somebody's talking about AI in e-commerce. When we started 6 years ago, we believed that there is much more into that. And the more we start working, the more we start exploring the use cases and the data and everything else related to e-commerce, we found out that there is a huge gap when it comes to applying AI in e-commerce. It's a very complicated process because you're dealing with a lot of data, especially with data and user behavior that is very trendy in a way that you have these micro trends which take place on hourly basis or even daily basis because everything is so dynamic and you have so many different external factors that impact this user behavior to a certain point that it almost becomes a chaos theory process, right? Where if you look at from the data, it just appears that it's just pure chaos. It's very hard to model. It's very hard to explain, to understand, because of these different external and internal factors. But when you look deeper into that, things start to make sense, right? You can see that, yes, there are patterns. Yes, there is a very interesting user behavior. Yes, there are some external factors that impact this user behavior directly or indirectly. And you can measure that and you can use that to understand the user behavior and the user needs and the trends more. So it's a very, very interesting. It's a very, very interesting space. So it's not just recommendation engines and coupons, right? Okay. So that's what I can definitely say.
Do you think? Okay, so I look at some of the uses of AI in e-commerce. Like for example, you can go into MailChimp and it'll create you an email campaign. And I just look at these things and I think, if you're so bad at creating an email campaign that you need an AI thing to create a really, quite frankly, pretty feeble campaign for your pretty feeble email, then you shouldn't be in this business. I mean, what how faddy is this? Is it just in a few years' time that we're going to look back on the AI bit and think, yeah, it was good for some things and not for others, and it was a bit of a fad, or is it going to fundamentally change everything?
So that's a very interesting question, and the reason why this question is very important is that what happened last year, it's probably one of the most important milestones I can definitely say for humanity. Yes, we're going to have to go through the cycles of hypes where, like something is super hyped, but it's too early, and then you're going to see a bit of fading away and then coming back again. But in a nutshell, this is going to be a cornerstone, a milestone for humanity and for development and everything else. And the reason why is that it's multidimensional. First of all, when I started the company in 2019, Trevor, very few people were able to understand and appreciate the impact that AI can have on their daily lives. So AI used to be, before last year, before all these different language models, AI used to be something that engineers would deal with. It would be something in the background, somewhere in the servers, optimizing things, changing things, maybe forecasting, but that's pretty much it. The
Mm-hmm.
average Joe would never understand and would never be able to appreciate that AI is something that is fundamentally important. So when we saw in 2016, you remember, right? That was like pre-pandemic. First, you had like the hypes of crypto, blockchain, so many other technologies were promising, but at the same time, they fell short on delivering and the impact, right? So think about it for like 5, 6, 7 years till 2019, the whole attention was on these technologies, and very few on AI, right? So last year, every single person out there was able to, for the first time, play around with the capabilities of AI. So these language models, they bridged the gap between the average Joe and the AI. So it's not anymore something that is just going to rest and sit on the background on servers, but it's something that can have a direct impact to literally everyone's life, right? You don't have to be an expert. You don't have to work on some cutting edge tech to be able to apply AI to change your work or whatever. But it's something that even if you're just a marketing person, or even if you are, doesn't really matter what industry, it's still going to help you. You can still use it as a research. You can still use it to get some inspiration, motivation about where to start, how to start, some quick facts and quick notes, right? So this is something that's very important. And since then, there is an explosion in interest from literally everyone when it comes to AI. There is a challenge though, because the challenge is that now there is kind of like a connection between, when people think about AI, they more or less think about language models, which language model is just a fraction, and it's actually even late to the AI party, because in 2011 and 2012, we had a breakthrough when it came to AI and computer vision, right? So language model, which is a part of like natural language processing, is something that we couldn't actually tackle, we couldn't figure out, we couldn't optimize, we couldn't advance it a lot until recently, right? So you have huge AI developments and advancement in other fields like computer vision, audio, speech recognition, text-to-speech, but text we couldn't figure out. So language models are not AI, right? So they are within the AI umbrella. They are a subcategory of models, but there are so many other models. So you even have models that were developed and created in the 60s and 70s. They are still used to this day. And actually, to start some projects off and do some basic analysis, they are like still state of the art, right? So this is something that one needs to now explain, that we're working in AI. For example, Behamics is an AI company for e-commerce, but we're not focused on language models, right? We're focused on understanding the user behavior through causation, trying to understand what makes a user buy or not buy something, right? But we don't apply language models to derive these understandings, to predict, to forecast, to analyze, to stimulate things. Because language models, they don't have this capability yet.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. So you're saying it's really just the AI, which is, there's the hype is all in what people like me who aren't into AI can see as these, ChatGPT, the amazing ability of that to produce natural sounding, and most of, natural sounding, conversational text. Sometimes it does come up with absolute garbage, but I've been very impressed with, putting, its ability to summarize stuff. Though I do wonder whether there's a kind of shit in, shit out problem with it. I mean, people are asking it to generate content from very little, with very little input, and surprise, surprise, you get what you get. You can't just generate something out of nothing. I mean, do you think that particularly just talking about content creation first, that there's, my first rule of the internet, right? Trevor's first rule of the internet is that just because there's more of everything doesn't mean that any of it is any better than it used to be. I mean, are we just going to end up with a huge amount of very average content, which is just published all the time, and it's going to be just as hard as ever to find the good stuff?
The interesting, I wanted to connect to this because the interesting part is that we as humans are very interesting because we tend to take things for granted very fast.
Yes.
Why do I mean by this? Let's take an interesting example. 2016, Trevor, I started a company. Google invested in that company. I raised money. And the whole company was focused on trying to understand our news articles, trying to understand what are they talking about, trying to understand what topic are they talking about? Are they supporting a topic or contradicting a specific topic or a law or banning or something, right? I raised money with it and I sold that company. It was cutting edge for that time. And it was very challenging to accomplish that. Now, what we did in 2016, you can do that with just a prompt.
Mm-hmm.
That's how big of an advancement it is since 2016, right? So this is something that's since like the last few years. It's a huge development. It's a huge progress. Yes, they are not there yet where we're hyping, for example, Trevor, because we like to hype things because of marketing purposes. We like to make them look way more advanced, way better, way more sophisticated, way more ready than they are. But if you compare it, if you put the perspective into place and you compare it to what we had, or basically we didn't really have anything just a few years ago, just before pandemic, and what we have now, this is a groundbreaking process, right? So.
Well, let's talk about let's move on to e-commerce then. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do it. Okay, so let's talk about first. I mean, obviously, content creation, right? How is that's because of the most obvious thing. How is AI helping with content creation? And also, first off, how is it doing it? And secondly, how can people use it to create better content?
So how people are using it right now, which I believe they're using the wrong way. They're using it to generate fully copies of text and content, which I do believe that it's not the right way because language models are, if you ask to generate a content without providing context, without providing information, without providing anything related to that, they're literally going to generate the same topic for another user somewhere else, So the chances that the same content or the similar content is going to appear on different pages of the internet is very likely. And we can already see that, especially with, for example, the frequency of usage of specific words. So there was a study in for example, research articles, and they counted the number of some words that usually these language models like to use, these sophisticated words that we as normal people, we don't actually use them a lot, right?
Yeah.
And there was a huge spike. There was a huge increase since the whole ChatGPT and language models, right?
But words like moreover is something I'd like to use.
Moreover, yeah, for example, yeah.
Wordy,
so
they're quite
these
wordy,
kind of like sophisticated, these very sophisticated words, yeah.
Kind of things that you don't really use in kind of everyday speech.
Exactly. So they tend to use that, right? So, and not only tend to use for your article, for your content, but also other people's contents, right? So that's kind of like the wrong way of using it. The right way of using it is for putting bits and pieces, structuring contents that you came up with yourself. Like you have some paragraphs and you want to find a way to smoothly, nicely connect them to have a smooth story. This is a very great way to do that. Or something that I personally use it for myself is to come up with inspiration, motivation, where to start, which way to get fast information, fast data, fast facts, fast summaries of information that for me would take, for example, a lot of time to go and search through the internet. and try to find where these information are located, but instead just get these summaries that I need to get inspired and motivated in which direction I want to write an article, or in which direction should I not write an article, right? So you have like three different components of it, right? So the first is like using it for inspirational, motivational, just to get started, ideation process, right? The second one is stitching your already drafted content or paragraphs together, which is also something that I personally also use, and we see it very often. And the worst possible one is like try to generate something completely out of blue.
Yeah.
So
I did this. I found it because I did the thing which I found, the chat GPTs of this world the most useful for is I wanted to write an article, a long article about Amazon FBA. And I found some content sources from all over the web. I think I'll have a bit of that, I'll have a bit of that, and have a bit of that. So I got the kind of structure of it, and I shoved it into ChatGPT and said, look, here's the content I want, summarize this with these headings. And it did an amazing job. It would take me hours to do it. And it did it, just like that. And that was amazing. That was the one thing I thought that, so I think it's amazing kind of summarizing ability. And I think that's but I read through it afterwards to make sure that it said what I wanted it to say. I think there's probably an awful lot of people who just publish things and don't really read them. So let's move on. Okay, so connected with that, how do you think AI is going to is going to affect search engine optimization? So search engine optimization obviously being the sites trying to appear highly in Google's natural search results. Is it going to be how's it going to help companies? How should companies use it most effectively? How have you helped companies? How do your tools help companies use it? And also, how is Google going to is addressing the fact that lots of people can use these tools to create a lot more content?
Yeah, so the effect of using ChatGPT and other language models for content generation, for SEO, and to attract and get more organic traffic, it's going to have like two different effects. Of one is like very negative one, and this is going to happen when you try to generate the content completely out of thin air and then publish that content. The reason why this has a huge negative impact is that it's very likely that someone else is doing the same process as well, right?
Yeah.
So when it comes to the search engine optimization, when it comes to retrieving information, right? These algorithms, they try to find different contents. They try to find dissimilarities between content, because when there are a lot of similarities there, or it's the same article, it's something what you call like cannibalization, right? You cannibalize one content compared to another one. This not only happens on two different domains or two different sites, even within your site.
Yeah.
Right. So if you have within like the same, if you're generating content with language models all the time, and you're not careful with that, you're going to cannibalize different pages within your site, which is going to have a huge impact for you, because for Google and other search like engines, it's very difficult to understand which one is the main authority within your domain, which page, which content is the authority, to pick it up and show it to the user. Because there is a confusion between a lot of articles that you have talked about, maybe slightly different topics, but when it comes to the content, just because you used these language models to generate content, these language models, they produce these specific words, they use it more frequently than others. And this can lead something it's called, like it pushes it towards the mean. It pushes it towards the average, right? So for search engines, it's going to be very complicated to differentiate, because they don't actually go and read the article. They work with averages. They take the whole content, Trevor, and for every single word, they get this embedding, and then they calculate relevances and similarities and all the things that are important, and then use this information to be able to understand if that content is relevant or not. But when language models use the same specific words on almost every article, you're going to be closer to literally almost every article out there.
Okay. So the state,
So
so you've got to be as careful, really. It's great for creating content quickly, but you've got to apply the same kind of quality filter to it that you would in any kind of, content creation, and
exactly, yes.
make sure that you've got, good content structure on your site, and you've only got one article about a particular topic, and that article is of a really high quality.
Exactly, yes. So that's the important part, because think about it. Think about it, when these language models generate content, probably 10-20% of the words that are used are the same as in other articles that they are generating for other people, for other sites, which means that your content is going to be 10-20% the same as literally everyone else on the internet content.
Okay, so how does your what do you? Because I know you've got an AI tool. What is your AI tool? How does it help people improve their performance?
Yes. So these language models, as we said earlier, they don't have context. You have to provide the context directly to provide some information, some key points. The problem is that even if they generate this content, right, they are not optimizing. They are not optimizing for to be ranked on the first position, on the top 10 positions. They don't have that information.
Yeah.
Right. If you want to optimize for that, you have to have information about your competitors, the contents on your competitors' sites, a lot of other information. You have to also have information about your other contents that you already have published in your site to avoid cannibalization, right? So all these different information cannot be really given to the language models.
Yeah.
So what we did is that we figured this out, and we saw that it's a big issue. And also because since pandemic, things have changed a lot, and there's a huge shift towards organic traffic. So we have implemented an AI that understands, and it's not based on language model, but understands what are the key ingredients, what are the key reasons, because we're focused completely on causality, trying to understand what's causing a specific rank, what's causing you to rank on the first position versus on the 100th position, or maybe not rank at all. So understand these different factors, and there are a lot. There are like 1,000 different factors that impact the ranking, including like technical, on-page, content. Content is just one factor. You have also backlinks. You can have the best, Trevor, you can have the best content, but if no one is linking to your content, no one is referring to that content, right? You're not going to rank. It's very competitive. And language models, they don't have this information. They don't have these causal factors. So we've incorporated all these different causal factors to first be able to explain why you're not ranking. And then based on this, take actions to work in that direction. So pretty much we kind of like provide a guide in which direction to go. But this guide, Trevor, is measurable. It's based on estimation. It's based on probabilities. It's not like a hit and miss situation, right? So everything, whatever action you do, you can even simulate. Let's say, for example, what happens if I build a backlink from Vogue versus New York Times? How much is the impact going to be on my ranking for my specific content for the specific keyword? Vogue versus New York Times, right? What happens if I write a paid article versus non-paid, right? So all of these different questions, we simulate this in order for us to be able to actually literally see and be able to optimize for it, right? So at the end, it's like an opportunity to be able to manage organic marketing, like paid marketing. In paid, for example, all of us know how it works. You specify your target audience, the budget, and you're going to have right away an estimation of how much traffic you're going to receive, or what's going to be your CPA or whatever, right? You don't have that on organic. You don't have on SEO. So the tool that we built, it does that for organic. It gives you these estimations.
Tells you how much work you need to put in to get a ranking.
Exactly. Or it also even tells you, like, because it's all about like understanding the ROI. It tells you about like the budget. You give the budget in, and then it tells you whether you can break even or not.
So is it you reverse engineered the Google algorithm, and so if you're running scenarios on it, is it so you take all the different, so you basically simulate the different Google ranking factors.
Exactly. Yeah. So we've extracted a lot of information that usually are used, like relevance, for example. Relevance is the most important factor. It's not how many backlinks do you have. Backlinks are still important, but the relevance beats the domain authority. For example, something that we know, domain authority that has been used in the past, it has almost no impact.
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody, for example, comes to you, let's say a guru in SEO, and says like, hey, Trevor, I can build you a backlink with a high domain authority and 80, and it's going to cost you 500, 600 bucks. He's just ripping you off, because there is almost no difference between a domain authority of 80 versus 50 or 40. Because things have changed.
Simulations you can work out, so you can find out. You can say, okay, you can know what you need to do to make the changes, and then work out the cost of that and work out the ROI. Well, that sounds like a very powerful tool. Might use it for my website.
It is, Trevor, and we do see the huge traction that we've got, right? So especially like large companies, mid-enterprise companies are kind of like going crazy about it, because like organic marketing has been this. Because let's say if you just search Google and it says like organic marketing, what is organic marketing? It's going to pop you say like organic marketing is free, but there is some effort related to that. It's not free. There is nothing free. Yeah. And me living in New York, like me living in New York, and you probably in London, that there is nothing free, right? So if it's not free, how can we measure it? How can we budget it? There is no way to budget it, right? It was completely hit and miss situation. And organic traffic is very important because organic search, Trevor, accounts for like 20-25% of the traffic of our clients, mid-enterprise. If you want to join the mid-enterprise club as a brand, you cannot rely solely on paid.
Yeah.
That's not going to bring you the traffic, right? This 20-25% of the traffic accounts for like 35-40% of the revenue, because it's organic. It has a huge intent. If I'm searching for shoes, I really need some shoes.
Yeah.
Right? It's a different story, me scrolling just like on lunch break, scrolling through Instagram stories or reels or whatever, and seeing an ad of shoes and clicking on it, right? Versus me searching for shoes. Right? So there is a huge difference in terms of intent and the purchase parity.
Okay.
So that's why budgeting this, when you have 20-25% of the traffic, which comes from organic search, and you're doing it on a completely blindfolded process manner, which is something that's very important for your store, having a tool that budgets it, predicts ROI, predicts the steps, simulates actions, is something that's very important. It's very disruptive. That's what I can definitely say.
Let's move on to, that sounds very exciting. Conversion rate optimization, right? So improving the conversion rate on a website. How can AI help with that?
Explain why. Explain the reason why your conversion rate is low. Why is your conversion rate down, right? And the reasons they change. It's not always the same reason, right? So sometimes one reason has an impact, sometimes the other one, right? So being able to understand, being able to explain. Let's say take the same logic as on the SEO rankings, right? And apply the same algorithms to be able to understand the user behavior, why they're buying, why they're not buying, by incorporating all these different factors. You can explain this, right? So by this, you can explain, for example, is it because of high pricing, right? The product is very high priced. Is it because there was an issue, right? So it's very common, Trevor, that users face issues, UI, UX, bugs, technical challenges, and they cannot buy a product, or they just get annoyed and whatever, and they leave. What usually happens in this situation when they ban the cart is that these brands think that, they banned the cart, let us send them a coupon, because maybe we can, like motivate them and bring them back.
Yeah.
But it was not the price, it was not the product, it was that there was a technical UI UX issue, right? And when it comes to the reasons, Trevor, there are a lot of reasons that they impact the conversion rate. It can be like competitor prices. It can be like weather. It can be economical data. It can be out of stock. It can be UI UX issues. It can be site speed, right? So maybe for example, you suddenly received a lot of traffic and your site speed increased, and it damaged the conversion rate for all of your clients, right? So there are a lot of these temporal, momentarily factors that impact your conversion rate, that when they are put together, they have an overall effect, right? So being able to understand this,
so your tool will monitor this and basically give reasons why the conversion rate has not what it, ways to improve the conversion rate.
Yes, exactly. So being able to explain this and being able to also take some action, for example, some automations that we run on top of these different reasons, right? So for example, if there is a technical issue that was the main reason why the user didn't buy, we would understand this, right? And you could, for example, send an email or something to the user and apologizing for the issue and trying to kind of like bring them back, but it's not about the coupon, for example. Or if it's because the product was not out of stock, maybe it was low in sizes, or the main size were unavailable. You can know this, you can explain that this was a reason for this specific user, and then you can send, for example, an email trying to recommend similar sizes or similar products that have the same, for example, that size available, right? So it's all about understanding what's the main reason. So what do I mean by this? It's like, for example, when you do B2B marketing, email marketing, and try to reach out to clients, right? So if you just write a cold email and then you use that cold email, this one template, without doing research on your clients, potential prospects, and you send it over, it's probably not going to work. As we know, the best email is when you really have done research for the specific prospect and you learn more about what the challenges are, whether they are facing this challenge or not at this point, and then you craft this email and you send to that, for example, potential prospect, or in this case, prospect. And you know that this is the best way to do it. So it's the same process, the same story for online stores. Usually you have one template, two templates, which I would call cold emails, right? And then you send it to all the users thinking that these are going to work. But knowing the exact reason why the user didn't buy that specific user during that visit is fundamentally important.
So what kind of uplift do you see when that kind of information is available?
Yes. So on average, up to 8%, 9% of all the conversion dropouts are because of technical UI UX issues. Another 6-7% are because of product issues, like products they don't have enough images. Maybe they have one or two images, low reviews, low ratings, or maybe the top sizes which are not available. So you have this 6 to 7%. It's product related, right? So when you combine these and you tackle these reasons, you're definitely going to go to like 12, 13% increase in revenue. And these issues, Trevor, are issues that they are on the table. It's money left on the table. These are ongoing issues. They're not like just one time off, right? So these are issues that have to be tackled, have to be understood. Or for example, there is a case when you have all these different paid marketing channels and you're throwing money into specific products, but these specific products, they only sell on one or two specific sizes out of 5 or 6. The product is still available, but the users, they are not interested on other sizes. That target group that you're targeting through ads are interested on these 2 key sizes, right? So from the perspective of the whole merchandising, it looks fine. Product is still available. But from the user behavior, you're literally losing money because you're throwing traffic into products where the main sizes are unavailable.
Okay.
And this leads to revenue loss in two different angles. Revenue loss from cost of ads, revenue loss from not being able to convert these users on site. Right.
Okay.
So these are specific cases. Yeah.
So what about, so when you talk about merchandising, so how is it that, so have you, can you use AI to help with give better product recommendations to people and offers?
Yes. So we're back to the recommendation part in this specific case. The best, it comes down to understanding what the user wants, what the user, what are the trends, what are the impacts, and what are the needs, right? Mm-hmm. Every single thing when it comes to AI starts with understanding the reasons and understanding the users in this case. Mm-hmm. So what we've seen, Trevor, is that just by collecting the data that you have on site, your click stream of users, your maybe historical purchases of these users, right? It's not enough because there are so many different external factors, such as weather, e-com trends, competitor prices, inflation data, right? That impact the user behavior even before they come to your site. Mm-hmm. So what we've done in this case is we've taken into account almost in real time these data points to incorporate it into the whole analysis and be able to understand, is a user buying or not buying because of an internal factors, as we mentioned before, like technical size availability or something, or is it because the trend for that product is already gone? There is no enough demand. There is no enough interest for that. And it's just counting. Every single day passes, the less and less interest is going to be for that product. Mm-hmm. Right? So, or like is it because of weather?
Like an umbrella when it's not raining, or
for example, yes. So, for example, what we've seen is that from our data, camping, for example, camping accessories, right? So, what campers do is that they check the weather in advance when it's going to be good for camping, and then they order the product in advance, a few weeks before, because they know that it's going to take some time. But they check the weather, Trevor. Mm-hmm. So they check the weather. When is the weather going to be great in a specific location in summer, for example, for camping or for snowing? They check, for example, for like winter, they check when it's going to snow, when is it going to be sunny, for skiing and all the stuff, right? All these different conditions. And they plan this weeks in advance. Mm-hmm. But there are some cases, there are some specific categories, for example, like shorts or t-shirts or jeans, that users also buy it. For example, as you said, umbrellas. They buy it because they get this wake-up call that either fall or spring is already here, and they don't really have clothes. So this is more like impulsive behavior, which happens as the weather is changing, right? So let's imagine it's fall and you didn't have an umbrella. It still didn't rain, but then one day it rains, mm-hmm. Or one day it becomes cold. The first cold day of fall or a winter, and you didn't have a jacket, and then you say, like, damn, I don't have a jacket. I have to go and buy it, right? And then you try to recuperate out of that process. So yeah, okay. It really depends on the categories of products, Trevor.
Okay, so it's really about what you're saying is it's about feeding back real-time data and real-time market conditions into your merchandising.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so instead of just going in and just making humans just go in and make a few changes occasionally, it's about super personalizing and bringing in lots and lots of different data sources. That's pretty good.
Exactly. Yeah, the external data is something that is where it provides a different context, right? So that the e-commerce is not an isolated system. It's not like users are living in caves, right? The user behavior starts from external factors, right? Raining, weather, all the different things.
Okay, so if you've got you've got AI systems. So Google, right? So say you're buying like an umbrella, right? Google's shopping has its own AI, right? You've got your own AI on the side. Are they going to work together, or are they going to work against each other?
Because they are. So Google, for example, in our case, these two systems are going to work together. And the reason why they're going to work together is that the Google search results, Trevor, it's a first, it's a first benchmarking. It's a first external factor that benchmarks the prices for that specific product to users.
Mm-hmm.
When I search shoes, the very first product prices that you see there, I'm going to take that as a benchmark, as a baseline in terms of what do I expect to pay, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you as a merchant selling shoes or something, right, you need to monitor these prices in real time.
Mm-hmm.
This is fundamentally important because this gives users a baseline on what could be expensive and what could be affordable.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So if you have a product which is like completely off of the charts, and it's something special or premium or something, off of these baseline prices that users usually see in that specific location for that specific product, this is going to have the first direct negative impact on your conversion.
Okay.
Right.
So how would your system? What would your system do about the pricing then?
So in terms of the pricing, we would collect not just based on the search results data and all stuff, but also competitor prices to be able to actually factor in and understand if the pricing is an issue or not. This is the first step, right? Because as we said before, there are a lot of factors, and it's very important to understand, is the pricing the issue or are some other issues that are responsible for that, right? Because you don't want to lower the price if the price is not the issue, right?
Mm-hmm.
If the price is the issue, then this is communicated to the client in the specific case. They can see it. They can see that for these specific products categories, the price is an issue because the average or the median price that users are seeing when they are searching for this product is this across the market.
Mm-hmm.
And then they can take decisions fast whether they would test to reduce the price of that product fast or not. Or they would also do A/B testings to be able to see whether reducing the price for like 10 or 20% would increase the revenue, right? So these are like two different actions that the clients can take. The most important part, Trevor, is that when something happens with your sales, it goes down or up. There is literally right now in the market, there is nothing that gives you an answer with one click and be able to understand exactly and attribute exactly what's the main reason.
Okay.
We have few clients.
I mean, e-commerce sellers do this all the time, and it's very hard to know what the reasons are.
Exactly. But that's a beautiful part of it because the AI models that we build that are based on causality and reasoning, they are able to break this thing down, being able to break this up and down process.
Okay, but I mean, like, is there a case where it would be just because your system, I don't know your system, but just because your system is giving an answer, doesn't mean it's the right answer. Is it giving a false, is there a danger of these AI models just, being very certain about things and giving an answer and you've got no way of testing it and you've got no way of knowing whether, is it just being like a, what I would refer to as public school confidence? Just saying with great confidence, but just hallucinating the answer. Just is there a danger of that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, if someone says no, then they don't know how AI works, right? So the accuracy and the confidence that we were talking about is something that is a crucial part of the system, right? So the confidence interval has to be printed out on every single conclusion and results and estimations that are out there, right? And depending on the severity, for example, of things, one can go in different directions. And as I said before, one of the directions that usually clients go is that they decide to A/B test 10 or 20% of the traffic to be able to see what the impact is going to be. Right?
Generating ideas for why it might be a problem, and then you can go and test those ideas.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. But there are a lot of, this is the interesting part, there are a lot of obvious factors that impact the whole process. For example, let's take the site speed, right? So If the AI says that your site speed has impacted your sales on that specific hour, that specific day, right, with a high confidence interval, and then you see that, yes, there is a drastic increase, for example, in site speed in that specific hour, this is a no-brainer for usually majority of clients, right? So there are a lot of obvious, for example, factors that we as humans might recall when we do these diggings, when we do this analysis, but because there are so many of these, we might maybe forget or overlook on specific factors.
Okay.
So this kind of like breaks it down and provides, say, like, this is reason that this is the estimation and this is the impact and this is how this has changed in that specific hour, so that you can see this right away and be able to test it. Okay. Trevor, in a normal situation, it usually takes like weeks or maybe never to be able to figure out what happened on a specific day.
Yeah.
Right?
I've certainly had that.
Usually.
No idea.
Yeah. So usually it's seasonality, Trevor. Usually they just blame seasonality. They just say, oh, yeah, it's just seasonality.
Or just throw your hands in the air, which is what I would do.
Yes.
Tell me what you think is the future of AI in e-commerce. Where are we going to be in 5 years' time when the hype has subsided a bit?
Yes, the fundamental piece for making AI sustainable is to be able to produce a cheaper and better hardware, which is the fundamental of AI, and at the same time being able to build better and more efficient AI algorithms.
Yeah,
these are like the two key components, right? So we see right now we're going through this wake up call that all of these different large investments in AI in the last few months and last year, now they are being questioned. Did we invest too early? Because the hardware responsible to run these large models and the models are not efficient. They are not cost effective.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So the question now is like, let's go back to the drawing board. We see the results. We see the huge impact that AI can have. Right? Let's go to the drawing board and try to figure out how to build way more sophisticated and cheaper hardware and way more efficient AI models. Okay? Because the AI models that we have right now, especially when it comes to large language models, they're not efficient, Trevor. They are absolutely not efficient when it comes to resources, energy, hardware, processing time, speed, everything related to that. Right? So where I see AI in the future is that now we're going to have a going back to the drawing board type of scenario to be able to figure out how do we tackle these challenges so that we can tackle them for the next few years. And in the next few years, I see that it's going to be very easy to run a language model, even in your computer, even a very complex one with trillion parameters, and something that it's more affordable, something that's more sustainable, something that can have multidimensional impact.
Okay, but I mean, you obviously got people, the 20 years ago, right? No one bought anything on Amazon. That's not true. 25 years ago, no one bought anything on Amazon, right? Is it now? It's 50% of the e-commerce market in the US. Is this AI technology going to help companies like Amazon that can invest more in it? And is it going to, and give the bigger players more market power?
So AI, just to be clear, Trevor, maybe it's also for the audience. Unfortunately, AI is the language models we're talking about is a game that can be only played when you have enough financial resources.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. Right. So what does this mean? This means that, it's almost a complete monopoly on who can build language models and who can build very advanced models. Right. And when Amazon builds something and they invest millions, they are not investing to build language models so that they can share it with the rest of the market. They're going to use that on their advantage. Right. So the future of AI, unfortunately, that's what I said. It's fundamentally important that in the next 5 years we see a sustainability in terms of AI, so that also all the companies, smaller companies, can handle and can work and can apply AI. but for the time being, it's only a game that can be played by the big guys.
Mm-hmm.
And that's an important part. We as Behamics, we're trying to apply AI as much as we can to help the brands be able to compete. That's kind of like the mission here. We're able to provide all these different insights. We're able to provide all these different things because we know that the majority of the stuff, even more than what we're providing to the clients right now, to the brands, Amazon and Walmart, they already have internally.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so for example, you can even see that based on the profile of the people that they are hiring. They are hiring machine learning engineers for SEO, Trevor.
Mm-hmm.
They are hiring machine learning engineers for cases where at other brands you see a marketing or business people working on these cases. So they're trying to level up the game. So this is the big challenge, and as part of Behamics' mission is fundamentally to provide this platform, this AI, that we can actually share with other brands that they can compete with Amazon. And it's not just Amazon; it's also Shein, for example. You know, like what Shein has done. It's like they literally, Trevor, they built the tech first, and then they use the tech to come up with products, right? And this, for us as Behamics, is fundamentally important because that's how things should be. But Shein is not going to share their tech with all the brands. Amazon is not going to share their tech with all the brands because they use that for their own purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So the future for us as Behamics, as a company in e-commerce, is to be able to expand this platform more and more and more. And as you can see, since we last spoke, the platform is tripled or quadrupled in terms of challenges we're solving. And clients are really loving it because there is no AI company in e-commerce, specifically in e-commerce, to tackle their challenges, to help them compete with these big guys and offer this to brands so that they can have some chances to play and compete. That's
excellent. Well, I support.
That's what I can definitely say.
I spent most of my time working with companies, helping them to sell on Amazon. I actually don't particularly like Amazon, so I support anything which helps people compete with them. Look, I've got one final question for you. What do you think about when you're not thinking about AI? Have you got something? Travel. Where have you been? Where have you been?
Travel. Athens, Greece, Athens. I love Athens. I really love Athens. I love Athens. I love Istanbul. I love old cities that have a long-standing history. You know, like you have Istanbul.
You went to the Acropolis, presumably, and you went to
the museum, and I've been to the old town, and I've been to a lot of places.
Did you see the bits where it says this thing is in the British Museum?
I've seen that, and you guys have to. There is an empty spot there. We need to get.
It's indefensible. It's got to go back.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's no.
These places, like Trevor, these places, like Istanbul, Athens, Rome, you know, and actually the majority of like cities in like Southern Europe and the Balkans and all stuff, and in Spain as well, you know, these are like a standing monument of where we as humans have come from and where we are and the progress that we have made and how that progress changed things fast, right? So if you see until like the Industrial Revolution, there was almost no expansion. There was almost no increase in GDP whatsoever. The only increase in GDP was by literally conquering another part of the world, pretty much, right? Unfortunately, you know. So, but when the Industrial Revolution started, then you see a huge developments and like huge increase in GDP, and then you know, like social standing and a lot of other things that are related to better quality life. So when you see these cities, you look at the past, at our past, and how humans used to live before Industrial Revolution, and how things have changed a lot for good. So
cool. I want to go back to Greece next year. I think I haven't been.
You should.
I haven't been in years. It's been great talking to you. It's been fascinating finding out about AI and e-commerce. Where can people find you online?
They can definitely reach to us on behamics.com or to me on LinkedIn. And I'd love to talk, and I'd love to chat, and I'd love to talk more about AI and e-commerce.
Great. Well, let's talk again in a year. We'll find out
Let's
how
do
it's been
that.
going.
Let's do that.
Okay. Lovely. Okay. Great to speak to you. Speak again soon. Bye bye, Valon.
Take care, Trevor. Bye bye.